Welcome back in. Clay Travis, Buck Sexton show, rolling through the Thursday edition of the program, bottom half of the hour. I was going to be in Israel until our flights were canceled, and totally a dangerous situation on the ground right now in Israel as moment to moment people wait to see what Hezbollah and what Iran are going to be doing. And we are joined now. We met with her last week in Miami. She was fabulous, I guess technically Palm Beach. In talking about the work that the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews does, the impact that they have on the ground. She is Yael Eckstein. I could not believe how powerful your discussion was about the impact the organization has on the ground. You are in Israel right now. Let's start with this question. What is it like from one moment to another in Israel? How nervous are people? What does it feel like walking the streets?
Shalom, Clay and Buck. I'm sorry you're not here with me, but I am so happy to be with you on your program. In Israel right now, there is kind of a tense calm that we are anticipating an unprecedented attack. And on one hand, we've lived in war forever. I was here during the second Intifada when cafes were being blown up by suicide bombers, yet people still went and sat at cafes. So there's a tense calm. On one hand, everyone's continuing on with their lives. We won't let the terrorists stop us. We are faithful. We are here in the Holy Land because of our faith, because of our conviction that we are doing the right thing. We are exactly where God wants us, but we are also doing everything we can to prepare for the second that these unprecedented attacks from 7 different fronts might start. So I'm on the ground on behalf of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, delivering lots of aid. Just in the past few days, we've delivered over 10,000 emergency food boxes to shelters. We've placed over 150 bomb shelters, mobile bomb shelters at the most strategic at hospitals from Nazareth to Jerusalem. We're making sure they have the equipment that they need to deal with mass casualties. So we're on the ground, both equipping the people to be able to hopefully survive whatever attack comes. And we're also representing that voice of Christians around the world who stand with Israel to make sure the people of Israel know, even though it feels like we're alone, we're not. There are so many people praying and helping.
You know, earlier this week, we had the mother, Rachel, of one of the hostages, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, on the show. It's a really powerful story, and we put it up at clayandbuck.com. Thank you for having the IFCJ help us set up that interview. We were wondering, though, how many hostage, and apologies, Yael, for my, I have a cold, so apologies for my voice. But back to this interview and the family, how many of these families, hostage families, have you been in touch with to date?
Wow, Rachel and John are a source of inspiration and strength to all of us, the way that they're able to keep their faith and positivity and hope alive. That I can't wait until their son comes home. Hirsch, may he come home very, very, very soon. But the fellowship is there for every single one of the hostage families and the survivors of the Nova Festival. We know there were thousands of people, kids, teenagers, young adults, who were at a concert celebrating peace on the border with the Gaza Strip on October 7th, when they came and murdered hundreds of them and kidnapped many others, including Hirsch. And from day one, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has been there for them, both as far as telling them that they're not alone, but also through helping them financially, letting them know that we won't leave their side. So, for example, over Passover, we provided the Passover food for them, along with over 150,000 others in Israel who are affected by war. For the high holidays now coming up, we're going to be providing for them once again, the family of the hostages. And it's this message that I can't stress enough, that Christians around the world stand with Israel. And for many people, that already might sound like a given. Of course, Christians stand with Israel. But when you're on the ground in Israel and you see what the UN is doing and the EU and so many governments are turning against Israel, the people of Israel don't realize that there are over 700 million Christians who stand with us. That's the voice through the food boxes, through the shelters, through the life-giving aid that we're providing. It's that message that so often is a switch for the people of Israel. Oh, we're not alone. Oh, we have friends for the first time in history, which is a source of inspiration and strength that no words could describe.
We're talking to Yael Eckstein. I don't know how much attention you pay to American politics on a day-to-day basis, but certainly I know you saw the protests from Columbia to UCLA and many different elite colleges and universities in between. It remains to be seen whether that's going to start back up as kids return to college campuses. But what just happened is, to a large extent, it seems like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was not selected as the vice presidential nominee based to a large degree on the fact that he was Jewish. There is I think, growing prevalence of anti-Semitism, not only in the United States, but also around the world. What do you see? Does that correspond with what you see, unfortunately, happening all over the world? And how does the IFCJ help to combat that?
Well, it's such a great point. When I see the protests in America, I don't know how it could be any more clear that Israel and America stand together, whether you like it or not. When I see these protesters burning American flags, my heart sinks. And I think, how are the American people, every single one of them, not standing up against this? This doesn't have to do with Israel. This has to do with terrorists who are saying Israel and America are both infidels. Jews and Christians are both infidels. This is so clearly a war of good versus evil, of those who sanctify life, like Jews and Christians, like Americans and Israelis, versus those who are seeking death, suicide bombers, people who are using their wives and their children as human shields. That if these protests don't make every single American wake up to realize this isn't about Democrat or Republican, this isn't about a political identity, this is a war for survival, not just for Israel, but for America as well. And so we see on the ground this reemergence of anti-Semitism that unfortunately isn't new. I think it starts in the Bible with Amalek, and it goes to wicked Haman, and you can see it in the communists and in the Nazis, and in every generation it's called something different, but it's anti-Semitism, and we're seeing it again now. And so I think in a way, we're seeing the same repetition of history that we know all too well, all of us. But on the other hand, we're seeing something so new, Clay and Buck, and that is, for the first time, the Jewish people have friends and aren't standing alone. That we all know the Corrie ten Boons. We've all read that incredible story of faith and resilience and a sanctity of life. Today we have millions of Corrie ten Boons. And that's what the fellowship represents when we bring food boxes and place shelters. These aren't an isolated few. This is what I call the silenced majority that you are giving a voice to.
Yael, to that end, how can everyone listening, Americans, Christians, Jews, how can we support Israel and the Jewish people during this critical time? Where should everyone go when they want to pitch in and help?
Thank you so much, Clay and Beck. Well, we are working around the clock. Our volunteers, our partners here with International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, just giving, distributing food boxes, because that's the biggest need right now. When these rockets start, we'll have to take a few days potentially to not be distributing food until there's a small lull in the attacks. And so now we're working around the clock and against the clock in order to get more food into the bomb shelters. We have our volunteers, we have our partners, we have all the different things that we need. We have the list of people who are in need. What we need right now is the donations to do as much as we can. The second someone gives $45, a food box is brought to a bomb shelter in Israel. So you can go to www.ifcj.org to donate, and you can follow how these donations are being used. I'm on the field on all of my social media platforms, Yael Eckstein.
Yael, thanks so much for all the work you're doing. We hope to see you soon and encourage everybody to check out supportifcj.org. Thank you and stay safe.
You guys are incredible. God bless you. Thanks for everything.